Ladies and gentlemen, you're in for a treat. You're in for a fucking treat today, and I best turn my WhatsApp off. But what I'm going to show you today, guys, is, and let me share my screen so you can fucking see what I'm talking about, how to legitimately double your close percentage, your close rate, with this one closed and paid, obviously, half a asshole. The bridge concept, okay, that's what it's called. And every time you read something like that, obviously with that type of title, you think, shut the fuck up. There's no hack that can do that. But legitimately, that's why I put legitimately, because legitimately, this is what can happen, and this is what I've seen happen with myself and on other offers. Who is this for, guys? In reality, this is for seasoned closers, right, or offer owners, because it's kind of like high level concepts to apply to the offers you're on that are already established, right? So either you are an offer owner on established offer, you're doing really well, you're fucking closing, and you want to increase that percentage, obviously, or you are a closer on an offer, you do really well, you want to become number one closer. Some of these concepts will help. And this kind of works across most offers. I've done this on quite a few myself, and I'm consulting with people where we're trialing it out and it's working. Who is this not for? So it's not for beginners before they have a solidified and gained experience closing. Like, obviously, if you're watching this and you're a beginner, it will still make a lot of sense. You'll still be like, oh my fucking God, that's great. But if you're a beginner, you're not on an offer, you won't be able to trial this stuff. And at the same time, when you're a beginner and let's say you've just gotten an offer, applying stuff like this is like probably a bit too far ahead, you know? Solidify yourself as a closer on your offer. Think about these things. Or you can even show the CEO or the offer owner, show them this fucking video. Okay, firstly, let's do a bit of introduction, because most of you watching will know who I am, but maybe some of you don't fucking know. And you're like, who is this guy? Who is this British guy? So in reality, if you found me on Twitter, it's Close and Paid, but my name's Richard Lovett. You can Google me. Not many people can Google someone and find shit. CEO and founder of Close and Paid. So we help closers become number one on their offer, legitimately teaching some shit that not many people do. Been in sales 10 plus years myself, more years than 10 I've been in sales, but 10 years or so I ran my own agency. And then I kind of naturally rolled into closing for other offers and external companies. I can't believe I didn't do it earlier, because like, fuck having your own agency and actually delivering the work and closing is way better. But anyway, collected millions in cash, and no, not in SaaS tech, because most people who say like, hey, I've closed 5 mil in rev or collected mils in cash, mostly they're in sales, in tech, where you're selling something for like 250, 500K, which is normal for those type of companies. You've got a massive lead flow, huge team of salespeople, and it's kind of normal to have that type of collecting mils in cash. If you sell something for 500K, which is legitimately out there, you only need to sell 4 of them in a year to collect 2 million cash. But anyway, doing that in the agency model is obviously the hardest way of doing this, and everyone who's in that kind of same game will know. On top of that, just so you kind of aware, I'm also an actor. I've been in 6 films. There's an Amazon documentary about me on Amazon Prime if you search Rich in Bollywood. And that's kind of where, like, I don't have a kind of background in sales, so to speak. Like, I haven't bought sales books and kind of sales training and everything. And that could be a negative for sure. I see it as a positive, because I've got maybe no bad habits. I don't rely on things I've learned. And actually, I rely on my acting skills and my experience in acting and auditioning and learning scripts and experimenting and kind of tonality and pace, all that kind of stuff. In acting, there's so much that you can kind of transition into sales. It's so cool. And then also, like, fuck, I've got a fucking Rolex. Like, how much more do you need to know? In all seriousness, guys, how did this concept help me? It moved me from around, I've always been on that offer that I was on, 35 to 40% kind of close rate. And then the moment I started implementing this stuff, it went up to 70% close rate in that first week of trying it. And I know a lot of you are like, oh my fucking God, no way. It's kind of funny, because I remember when I did it, I didn't ask the CEO, didn't tell everyone what I was going to do. And I started doing it naturally, just because I worked it out. And then I remember all the other closers kind of being like, what's going on? Like, what have you changed? You know? And then kind of when that happened and we transitioned and I explained it all, it's now a concept that's just everyone does, pretty much. Because it's like, it's just so natural. It's kind of funny that you wouldn't even have thought about it before. But I don't want to make this too long. guys. I'm trying to try and give it to you short and sweet, but this is just a bit of a screenshot to show you. I think this was 1 week of calls, not even that many calls. You know, it might even be more than 70%, who knows? But anyway, what we're kind of looking at is the greens and the light greens. So obviously the greens are where I've kind of closed and paid on that call. The light greens are what we really want to look at, because this is where I've utilized the bridge concept. So the cool thing you'll see is like Tyler at the top, Tyler light closed, bridge method. Next day, Tyler closed and paid. You'll see Andy here, light close, bridge method, down at the bottom, a few days later, close and paid. That's the concept that's got way more people over the line. And that's what I'm going to try and kind of explain to you. So what is the problem here and how did this come about? So the point of view is you want an offer and you're selling a general concept. And this kind of normal for most offers. Like if you're selling an Amazon store to make money, that Amazon store like is the general concept to make money. Like a call, if you're selling a call center, that's a general concept. PR is in some ways, in some areas of PR, it can be a concept. It's not kind of personable, right? You're showing them a vehicle to then make money, if that makes sense. So you're like, I can hear you saying, what's the problem with that? Because you obviously still close people. I get it. But it's a general concept. It's not custom. What you're selling them, I'm going to just repeat myself all the time, general concept, not custom, right? So an Amazon store is, when you're selling them that concept, it's just the vehicle to make money. You're not actually showing them, obviously, on that call, their store, their products, their budget. Do you know what I mean? It's just they have to buy into the concept first. And you lose out, guys, on sales because of this, because you're literally selling on the concept. You're boxing prospects in. It's like, hey, they can buy into that concept, but for some people, and obviously that's not enough, and so you box prospects in because they're met at the end with a decision to make, but not, I call it huge clarity. There's not huge clarity there. I'm probably going to say clarity a lot more here. So you're asking people to pay in full for something that doesn't provide true clarity, and you're like, sure, but they obviously get that clarity when they pay. So like an Amazon store, let's say it's a 35K investment. Once they've paid that, they then get clarity, obviously, right? They onboard, they start to build things, they start, everything becomes custom. Now they've got clarity. Take a step back, right? That's a huge step for a lot of people, especially on like BizOp, B2C. Actually, it applies on many things, but like just take an example, B2C, BizOp, kind of got younger people looking for their first line of kind of a secondary income, maybe the first time that they've invested a substantial amount of money to them outside of their normal stuff, you know, and you're basically boxing them in because you're asking them to buy into the concept and pay this thing in full to be able to then get clarification on the nitty-gritty of it, right? And most owners design their offers around clients to pay in full on that call. And as I put, that's fine. I get it. Of course, that's what we all want. But like, it's kind of missing the forest for the trees, because that's not the majority of people you speak to. And I'm going to break that down in a minute. But like, if you speak to 100 people on average, the majority of those people are not there to pay in full. Most people, you should know this, are like there to gather information. I'm biased, obviously, but the close and pay methods, everything that I kind of introduce, are about systems that capture the majority, casting a wider net. Because like if you have a net that is just focused on getting those people to pay in full on that call, it's going to be a small net. Whereas if we can cast a larger net, we can probably obviously capture more people, and I'll explain how that's done. And so I'm saying, how do we capture that and move the sale on so that we don't have to deal with bullshit objections? Because a lot of the time people have objections that are kind of made up. It actually happens a lot. They're actually just brought up from nowhere because people don't like to be really honest at the end. If they're not fully bought in and they're like, hey, I need to think about it, you've probably done a bad job. You know, and people don't want, when you're like, hey, but I can tell you like this, but like, what are your concerns? People don't want to sit there and go, okay, let me think about all my concerns here, and then let's chat them through. You've kind of wasted time. People don't want to do that. You actually have to be ahead of that stuff, guys. Like ahead of their objection. The sale becomes way more natural because you're already reading ahead where they potentially are. So this is why you need to put yourself in their shoes and just think about it. Would you buy painful? If you wouldn't, why not? What could help you? Right? This is kind of how I think anyway. Because what I said here is so that we don't have to deal with bullshit objections, be really salesy and resort to tedious follow-ups. I hate that fucking stuff. I say on Twitter all the time, fuck follow-up. And it's kind of a bad thing to tweet in reality, because follow-up is it's a good thing, and like it gets you a load of deals kind of outside of your calls. And I'm just lazy, guys. Like the way I think about things is like, what am I bad at? What do I not want to do? Okay, I don't want to have to remember to follow up with people and kind of run after the sale and keep reminding them. And I want to close more people on the call. I mean, obviously that's what everyone wants, but people don't think about formulating their plan of action around that in itself. And remember, once they're off the call with no money down, you are now the B-side. I mean, this is obviously common sense, but like, it's funny because you can have someone who's like, let's say that they don't pay anything, but you can tell they'd like it. So you're like, they're really close. The funny thing is, once you leave that call and everything dies down, the emotion's gone. Because when you have them on that call, like that's where the magic happens. Once you leave that space, emotions go, logic comes in. There's a lot of gaps for losing sales, and they lose the want and the need. And like, you know, you can get a lot of people in follow-up, but also you lose a lot of people that way. And follow-ups, this is a major aspect for me. Is like follow-ups can threaten the perception and the frame dynamics that you create. Right? So if you're like a closer who understands frame dynamics and like you can control the call, you are the authority. You are the technical god here. You understand frame dynamics to an extent that you can't be pushed around and that you're able to challenge prospects no matter who they are. Then you'll be seen as like the authority. And what happens is, and I've even been in this scenario where I'm speaking to like a high-level lawyer, really fucking huge, like very, very expensive lawyer. And I don't even like to say this, but I've won the frame battle. He sees me as like this competent individual that he wants to buy from. I've not been able to make the sale there. So we've gone off the call, the emotion's gone down. They get into a busy routine, they kind of forget, and then I'm following up. What happens is the perception changes, because in one case they saw me as this guy who's like insanely competent, and they were having to kind of sell to me for me to accept them. And then the moment we get off this call and a few weeks pass, the whole scenario changes. It's now me actually trying to get them back. And that changes their perception, because they're like, hey, wait a minute. The way I saw him is now changing. I thought he was this, but the way he's messaging me now is like changing my perception. Maybe they're desperate for clients. Maybe my first perception of him was wrong. Maybe they don't have many clients, right? So I think of it like this, which is why I'm very careful in my approach to follow-up, right? And a little thing, is that what Floyd Mayweather would do? He's all about being the fucking A side, right? And never being the B side. So maybe you can hear my dog fucking drinking gallons of water over there. So the question is, if we want to capture the majority of people, who are the majority to begin with? And this came from ChatGPT, my best mate, but read it. On average, the percentage of prospects who might be ready to make a purchase during the call could range from 5 to 30%. So rough estimate, obviously, depends on the niche, depends on so many fucking factors. But of all the people I've worked onside and consulted with, most people are down the bottom end. Because on average, what you see is offer owners run an ad. People get curious because they've been searching this problem. They see your ad because it pops up at the right time because of what they've been searching. And then in that moment, they're emotional and they book in. The call is in 3 days. Okay. In that time between booking and that call, they lose that emotion, right? And you also have not provided them any education. So what happens is they end up either, and we all know this if you're a closer, you get a ton of no-shows from that procedure. And if they do make it to the call, all they have to their knowledge is an ad they saw a few days ago, and they don't even fucking remember that. They just remember they were slightly curious. So those people are there to just gather information, and you guys as closers bang your head against the wall because you face so many people like this who are just, they're not really there to buy, they're there to gather information from you, and you're like, fuck man, how do I get these people to buy? So I don't want to go off on one here, but you can increase that 5 to 30% by following the closed and paid, and it's not even closed and paid, it's just general common sense, by pre-call materials, like educating them. So when they have that problem and they book in, sending them a VSL that they have to watch before the call, else we're not fucking talking. Send them a PDF, who it's for, who it's not for, case studies. You have to educate them. And a more educated prospect is an easier close, obviously, because they know of your competence and your ability to help this challenge. You know, so you can move that 5 up to 30% by just implementing this stuff. So that's another concept. However, this is the biggest one in brackets in bold here. The percentage of people on a sales call who are in the information gathering stage could be around 70 to 95%. Again, depending on various factors, obviously. So the thing to take into account here is that's very high. So like if it's like 95% of people who are there just to gather information, how do we bring that down? If that's the majority of people we're speaking to, there's a small people who are already bought in who will pay in full, but the majority of people are there to gather information. How can we actually convert more of them? If you're a closer, again, you'll know sometimes you just fucking get on a call, you know they're in the information gathering stage, but you do such a fucking good job. It comes out of nowhere, you're in the flow and you close them. And you're like, hey, that was just an amazing call. I closed this guy. He came into the call saying, I'm speaking to other people. I'm just gathering information. You close them, right? But the problem is that happens rarely. And you don't think about what happened and what changed to get them over the line. So what I'm going to kind of teach you here is my thoughts are, I don't focus on just the people who are paying full. I focus on the majority of people and how can we get more of those people over the line? So how do we define them? So it's people who like what they see, they're interested. I mean, there's an element of you understanding this, because they're not going to say, I like what I see and I'm interested. They're not going to say that. But you can tell they like it, they're interested, they're very close, but not quite there. There's something missing. Reason being, they're left with no option to gain more clarity, right? So you show them the price, they like the concept, but there's something missing. And I put this in bold here because this is something to just bear in mind. They don't often tell you guys, and they don't always know. It's not like a conscious thought. I know why I'm not buying. Let me tell him. It doesn't work like that. They often don't even know themselves the exact reasons. And if you say, what are your concerns? You got any, you want to talk about these concerns you have? They don't even know. So like, this is why I said before, you are going to appear much more competent by providing this clarity yourself, by jumping ahead and seeing it and providing it without having to resort to kind of asking them, if that makes sense. So they go away and think about it and you resort to tedious follow-ups. Now, guys, this is a bit of an extra piece that I just added on, but like it's another little concept. I could probably do another topic on this, but it's another little concept I just want to add in here that will improve your close rate, because it's just fucking, again, common sense. In many instances, offer owners don't have variety in pricing either, and this also cuts off a lot of people. Most offers are X amount, let's just say 10K, and so that's like, here, you're paying full or we have a split payment, right? Instead of a range. Obviously, I've got 2 examples here, but just to give you a bit of clarity on that, the problem is with just offering this payment in painful or in split is you're going to have a lot of people who can't afford that no matter what you do. But the biggest thing which you don't fucking think about is that you're going to get a lot of people who can buy but could have spent double that. And you don't offer anything more. So you're not actually getting as much revenue and as much cash collected as you can. Not only for the cheaper people by offering a range less than 10K, because people are buying into the concept, but you don't offer anything lower. So you can capture a lot more people with other products. And you could offer something double the price, even more so, because people have money, and if they're already bought in, you could capture them on more, right? So this is why whenever I consult for someone, I'm always thinking of how can we implement a range and differentiate our pricing. And you lose people because of lack of choice here, right? An example, I don't want to go on too long about this. But one thing I realized on this PR offer is if you offer a small window of a range, even when someone has money, you can still lose out on them. And I've tested this out. I remember one time, a bit of a story. I closed a guy with the bridge concept. I got on a second call with him to present him kind of the clarity, the solution. And the pricing structure I showed him was still a range, but it was a narrow range. And this guy had, I remember kind of looking back, he'd been scammed twice by 2 other PR companies, right? So he was like, I had done fucking well just to get money down from him. And I remember on the second call, I presented him this range, but it was a really small range. I think it was like 8 to 12K, like that's what you have to pay. And I could sense the friction, but I stood behind what I was saying, right? Because once I presented the price, you can't really back out. And also the prospect, once you show them such a kind of narrow window, they don't have the ability to think outside of that. They're just going with that. So he didn't want to say no, he didn't say no, I'm not doing it. It was a bit of a battle. So I ended up going, okay, yeah, I get it. It was a bit of a battle there, and he was like, okay, well, I'm going to show this to my business partner, whatever. Anyway, came back a few days later, refund. Okay. The point in question here is, if I had presented more options for him to get his feet wet, he would have bought. I know it. And I've experienced this with more and more people where I've closed very high level people, like very wealthy people, and they start on a lower package to get their feet wet. And that makes a lot of sense, guys. To give you an example of this, and I'll just present this as well. On this PR offer, I realized this. We were losing people because they weren't presented enough options at the time of closing after the pitch. So I created this slider, which I'm going to show you now. So, and I can, if any of you guys want to implement something like this, I can consult with you. I can help you build it. Obviously, it's going to cost you. But this, like, once we implemented this in itself, tons of closes because of the options. So what we could do was I could advise, hey, we should start with this amount of tier 1s articles, this amount with tier 2s, this amount of TV, this amount of podcasts. I would advise it, but one thing it would just show them is we can play around with this. So if I advise something and they were like, hey, but if we change that to that, and we change this to this, and this to this, and this to this, what would it come out as? Right? And so what you've got here is tier 1 pricing, tier 2, you've got TV, you've got podcasts, you've got time period of working with us, you've got payment in full or not. And so the ability of the client to then have custom options of where to start close way more people. Obviously, there's more choice. And so, and then you'd have the price at the bottom, and you could play around with this stuff. So that in itself closed more people because of that. And another example is I am consulting on a call center offer where the offer owner, it's a fucking really cool thing, they build you out a call center in a remote place, and like legitimately such a good offer. And the offer owner was selling this, doing well, but he's selling it on just this one standard price. And I think the first thing I implemented was a huge range of pricing. So I think it was I can't remember. It was at one pricing. And what I did was offer a 6K, a 12K, a 25K, and a 35K offer. Different ranges, like custom stuff. And what happened was the moment we, like, and if you go back a bit, his problem was if you sell at one price, you get people who will buy it, but they would have paid double. And you've lost out on people who don't have that, right? So when we implemented it, the majority of people are spending 2 to 3 times more than they were before, and we were capturing more people on 25 to 35K, but we were still selling at 12K and 6K, right? So again, concepts that capture the majority, right? Because lots of people are buying into the concept, but they didn't have the options at the end. So those two examples, like, is how it works. So let's just get back to, that's how, because this whole talk today is about the bridge concept, and that's just about choice in pricing, how that can improve your kind of close rate. But let's go back to it. So you're not selling something custom to the person you're speaking to. For example, an Amazon store is the general concept. It's the vehicle to make money, right? There's many vehicles to make money, second income. People are trying to do it because they can't, fucking inflation's mental, right? And they need a second income for their family. But there's many ways of doing it, right? And everyone knows Amazon, so everyone can buy into the concept of Amazon. But when you're on that call with them, you're trying to sell them on, and I'll keep repeating it, the general concept. What you're not showing them is a custom store. It's not their store, probably a case study store, or it's a general store you've got. You're not showing them custom products for that person. You're showing them general products. You're not showing them kind of a custom choice depending on budget. You're probably just saying this is the budget, right? And all of that stuff is what prospects want to see. That's what I call the clarity. They want to visualize their new world, where they would be. That in itself is what provides clarity. And this is the bridge concept. So providing that step between the concept, the general concept, and their new world, right? So how have I made this work on many offers? Put in a stepping stone that provides clarity. Do you reckon I've said that 100 times? Probably. But one that comes at a price, i.e., we will create this for you and do the work for you, but only once you pay, right? Refundable deposit type Huberman solution. Bearing in mind, guys, this is not kind of an objection handling point. You're not handling objections and then showing them this. This is just like a solution, a natural solution. You can actually just do this with every prospect anyway, you know? Bear in mind, it's a really important point. If someone is willing to put a deposit down, a micro commitment, you should be willing to go above and beyond for that person. Like, that is worth the company's time, right? We can all agree. You shouldn't go above and beyond for every prospect, right? That would be number one, too time consuming, and number two, you'd be wasting a lot of time. But if you could already say ahead of time, okay, well, people who pay a deposit, we're going to go above and beyond to provide more clarity. Right? That makes a lot of sense, right? So now I'm going to go through 4 ways in which I've done this on other offers to get a micro commitment and to offer them something that moves the sale on. And where did I? Yeah. It moves the sale on and keeps us the A side, so to speak. So in PR, we did it with earned media with a bridge to a publicist. So the problem, and let me just explain, the thing is in PR, with very high level PR, so we're talking like Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Business Insider, you can't really guarantee that stuff because it's all pitched. You pitch to their journalist your story. They get pitched hundreds of times a day. And like you have to have such a unique story that they pick you up. So let's say we're on a call and we're selling someone this concept. They're like, hey, you can tell they're bought into the concept of PR, but there's a bit of a sticking point because it kind of feels stupid. Wait, I'm going to pay 10 to 15K a month and I might not get picked up by them, which is what I want to get picked up, but I might not. It's fucking funny because if you go to one of the $1 billion, there's a few $1 billion PR companies. I don't know how they stay in business, but you will pay them a retainer on a monthly basis. And guess what? If you don't get picked up by them, like, no, if you don't get picked up in publications, guess what? You continue paying. It's madness. If you don't get, you're still paying, you don't get results. And so it was kind of a sticking point for us. And I know those billion-dollar companies face that sticking point, but they're so rich, who gives a fuck? So what I did and I put this in a natural way. I didn't even offer it as kind of an option. I was like, hey, so you want that? Okay, well, even if I wanted to just offer it you right now, I can't. What we have to do is this. We do $1,000 refundable deposit. I book you in with a publicist. The publicist who's got 20 years experience will interview you. We'll get your whole life story, deep dive on you. And then they'll go away and, number one, they'll give me a yes or no that we can guarantee that level of publication. Number two, if we can, they'll give me a list of, maybe 20 publications that we're confident on getting you, right? So this would work, and this is what made my close rate jump from like 35 up to 70 in that 1 week I implemented it, because people love what's premium, exclusive, and what they have to qualify for. So the fact that they get another touch point, they would be interviewed by a publicist, meaning they kind of have to qualify their own story to see if it's good enough. Another touch point meant they saw how professional and competent we were. Again, another thing. Then they would get on a call with me, and I'd present to them the 20 publications that we could guarantee. And we'd basically say, hey, we will guarantee 4 off this list. We're not going to say which ones in the next 4 months or something like that. And they would be impressed with all of those. They basically in their head, they'd be like, well, actually, if I get 4 of these or more, I'm going to be super happy. So number one, they get clarity now. It's custom, right? And number two, more touch points. And what happened was we get so many people paying a deposit because it makes so much sense. They'll pay this deposit and it's refundable, so it's kind of no risk, and they gain way more clarity to now go forward, and you would get more people. In the call center, we did a bit of a similar thing. The problem with the call center was it's built in cohorts. So you start at the start of the month, and it's a cohort throughout that month, 4 weeks build out, keys handed to you. Problem was, let's say they started the build outs at the start of July. You spoke to someone in 7th of July, so they can't even start until August anyway. So you'd have 3 weeks of, at the end of the call, they'd be like, yeah, that works. But we'd lose the A side because we get off the call, send the contract, send the invoice, but we're playing catch up. And 3 weeks is a long time, so they can lose that emotion. And you don't have anything down, and you end up, a lot of people would like pay right at the end of the month because there's no rush to pay. Why? And number two, people would drop out because they lost that emotion. So it's like, okay, what can we put in place to provide a bridge to get money down, a reason to get money down, and to give people more value to keep them interested? Okay, so it was really easy. We did a deposit at the end of the first call, and this was natural. It wasn't like, oh, you're not going to pay in full now? Okay, well, we'll do this instead. No, we didn't do that. We just did, this is the next steps. We do $500 refundable deposit. We go back with the team, we get this call, and we create you a custom PDF. So it's kind of like they were buying into the concept of a call center, but a call center is a general concept. What would be custom is a call center on their niche, so in commercial real estate, and then that niche broken down, and the kind of what we're seeing in the market, how much leads cost, what case studies we've done in that area, right? So then they receive a custom PDF, and it was like gave them clarity on a call center in commercial real estate and what we've seen and their timeline. It would give them like, here's what your first month will look like, here's what your second, third, and fourth month will look like. Again, all it did was provide clarity. It didn't take as long. Worth it. And I put in bold here, guys, we also gave them a CEO clarity call. And you guys listening, if you're on an offer, and this happens a lot, people are sometimes buying into the CEO. They're following this person as CEO on social media, following them for a long time, taking in their content. Then they make that jump to be interested. Sometimes what's really valuable is a deposit and then a fucking clarification call with CEO. It's worth the CEO's time to do it, as long as it's strictly 15 minutes, no more, and it's a clarification stuff. it's worth the time. And what we did was a bridge to a custom PDF and a CEO clarity call, and fucking hell, people loved it. I remember the first day we implemented this, 5 out of 6 calls closed on that. Another way we did it, Amazon store. Again, I told you guys, people are buying into the concept of the Amazon store. So what we did was deposit, you get a custom PDF with custom products to launch depending on your budget, right? So we'd find out on the call kind of what niches did they like? Did they like electronics? Did they like pets? Did they like home stuff? And we could pick a few. Now we'd send them a PDF, and after the PDF they've got, we can have a second call. The PDF would break down all these different products they could choose depending on their budget, and then a history of those products. The reason why we've picked them, because they have a history of this growth and what we've seen. And here's some case studies. So if you have a budget, here's the investment. On top of this, you need a budget for stock. If you have a lower budget, we can start here. That's fine. But if you have a bigger budget and you can spend this, we can start here with these products. Again, clarity, custom, gives them options of pricing. Right? Real estate offer. We did this off-market real estate offer. Again, a custom PDF with a plan of action, zip codes that we're going to target, blah, blah, blah. Again, clarity. And what you can do is you can set up the second call after they've got this. So after that first call, when they paid that deposit, you can actually say to them, so what we're going to do is we're going to send you this across. We're going to have a second call. So what we'll do is we'll book the second call now for this time next week. I'll get the team to send that across, and then we'll jump on this time next week. We'll go through the custom PDF, and you can either get the full payment then or whatever you want to do. And so that's it, guys. Not much more to say other than apply this stuff to close more people. As simple as that. And obviously, if you want to speak to me or Ryan at Closed and Paid about doing this for you on your offer and helping you close more people, DM me.